Good evening. I'm calling the Monday, July 10th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting to order. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, everyone. All right, first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do I have any requests for changes to the agenda this evening? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, motion and second. All those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. We have the minutes from the last meeting held on Monday, June 12th, 2023. Any concerns about the minutes? Entertaining motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, minutes from June 12th are approved. We have two public hearings on the docket tonight. First up is Menard's PUD amendment for gate expansion. This is a request for a planned unit development concept review on 15.72 acres, planned unit development district review with waivers on 15.72 acres, and a site plan review on 15.72 acres. Will the proponent of the project please come forward? Good evening. If you would state your name and tell us about your request, please.
Absolutely. Good evening. My name is Nick Brenner. I'm a real estate representative for Menard's. Address is 5101 Menard Drive, Eau Claire, Wisconsin, 54702. So what we are planning to do here is revamp the yard gate into the lumber yard behind the store. Today, there are two uncovered lanes, one in, one out, with the guard shack in the middle. What we are proposing to do is add a third lane to that. And we are also proposing to put a cover over it. Back 15 years ago when the store was built, it didn't really matter on our side if it was covered or uncovered. Since then, we have learned, especially up here in the northern climates, that cover is very important. For the guests, for the workers, and the equipment that goes in there. It takes a beating with the snow, the rain, the wind, everything like that. So every store that we've done, really over the last 5 to 10 years, we've been putting covers over these things. And we haven't gone back to this one to do a cover because we didn't really have a big reason to. But now with the addition of the third lane, we found that reason to go back and make this covered in addition for the third lane. The reason we're doing the third lane is because it's an automated gate. So there's actually a scanner. There's a scanner that you can scan your receipt on, and it opens up those gate arms automatically. You don't have to wait for the gate attendant. This is for anyone that orders things online, or if you go order 2x4s or sheetrock and you have to get into the lumberyard in the back, you just take your receipt, scan it, and you're able to get in. That way, and it's really important to do this because that means that gate attendants can really continue to focus on getting people out of the yard because everyone still has to check out before they leave the yard to make sure they have the correct merchandise. There's still one other gate, so there's 2 ins, 1 out. You can still go in the normal in, and the gate attendant can help you with that if you have any questions on where product is or something like that. So we're really doing this because of the efficiency of getting people in and out, and competing against online retailing is just ever important today in today's retail market. So whatever we can do to compete, make sure that people are satisfied with the quickness and the efficiency of picking up product is an absolute must. So that's what we're doing. Along with this request, we do have 4 waivers that we are asking for. One is the BAR, FAR ratio. When we built this store 15 years ago, as you probably are aware, we took a big development and squished it on a very small parcel. So we maxed out these ratios when we did the store. So whenever we do an addition or expansion, even as minimal as this, we do trip the requirement to ask for a waiver for those ratios. So that's what we are doing here today as number 1. The second one is a setback. So there's a 20-foot setback. We are at 11 feet 8 inches. And again, that is because these gates have to be a certain width because we have garage doors and we have to get trucks in there, pedestrians in there. So those are our standard width to make sure that all those vehicles can get in without hitting the gate and damaging vehicles and stuff like that. So with that being said, we are asking for a reduction of the setback. The good news is, as part of the building code, we were required to go to our neighbor and get a no-build easement. So they actually granted us that. So there's 40 feet on the other side of the property line where they agreed not to build any structures. So really the intent of that setback is still being maintained because we did get that no-build easement from the neighbor. The third thing is signage. So right now we're about maxed out on signage on our building facade as it sits today. The signage we are asking to put on are directional in nature, telling people which ones are in, which one's out, which one's to order pickup. Also, we do have a liability sign on there, which people a lot smarter than me tell me that we need this day and age, unfortunately. We do usually have more signage than this on the gates, but we have narrowed it down to what we thought was absolutely necessary. So we are asking for, I think, 50 feet or 50 square feet more of additional signage on to allow us to put this on the gate. Good news is the gate sits back. You really can't see it from the front. So really the only people that are going to see the signage are the people going to the gate, and it's going to be more beneficial than not to have this directional on the gate than not to have it, so people aren't backing up, going to the wrong gates, things like that. The fourth waiver that we are asking for are the building elevations. So we actually meet the requirement on the front side. So if your back is towards 212 and you're looking at the gate, the front elevation, which you see, meets the code. The east side of the gate meets the code. But what we're asking for is a waiver on the back side. So the side that's inside the lumberyard that you can only see inside the lumberyard, we are asking for a building material waiver because it's the same elevation as the front side, but we don't have that facade wall that goes all the way to the ground like we do on the front. So this is a three-sided gate with open air on the back side. So we don't have that area below the canopy to include that brick. So everything we have is just that ephes that sits on top of the canopy. And the reason we have the ephes is because it's a lighter material than brick, and we're able to put that over on the overhang. We don't have those structural supports like we do in the front. So those are the four waivers and a little quick description of the project. Be happy to answer any questions. If I missed anything, just let me know.
Okay, thank you. Any initial questions? Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Commissioner Fort.
Can I just ask for some clarification? I don't know if you have a site plan back up there, or if you can blow that up, but on your site plan diagram, it looks like this canopy structure and those 3 lanes are in line with your, I'm going to call it a side property line that heads east towards Plaza Drive. And I'm trying to understand who owns what there in terms of entrance off of Plaza Drive, I'm going to say the easternmost driveway. You understand where that A to Z rental is? I'm assuming they have an access agreement over your property. Is that an accurate statement?
That is a good question. If it is our property, yes, they absolutely do. Menards does own the strip center in the front, though. So that is part of the Menards property up the portion that's highlighted right now. So that is Menard owned.
Okay, so Jeremy, I'm sorry, that strip center you're circling, that's what the gentleman's talking about. Menards does own that? It's on the Menards
We
property,
do
right?
own that, yep.
Okay, that's what I thought, because you're measuring the base area ratio numbers against that.
Yep.
But not the signage.
Not the signage because it's based on building.
Okay, all right, but back to my questioning then. That driveway in the upper right-hand corner of the site plan, are your customers encouraged or offer the opportunity to enter that driveway to access these new 3 lanes? Or new 1 lane, there used to be 2. Or do the customers come through the narrow alleyway, I'll call it, between the retail building and your big box?
Yes, that is the aisle that we recommend doing because that is a pretty sharp turn to get into the yard gate coming from that backside.
That was my concern.
Yes. So most of our customers will come from the front of the property and go through that alleyway to get to that yard gate. And that all of our trucks and everything that go in the yard too will use that same pathway.
Okay, good, because with 3 lanes instead of 2, they're going to be a little narrower now, and you really have to approach it straight on, and you don't want those 90-degree corners.
Yup,
Okay.
and I mean, it only takes one time to make that mistake before you realize there's a much easier way to do it.
Yeah.
So, and even that, if you do come down that alleyway and you're going to look to take a right there, I bet most people will actually take a left and kind of do a loop and then come back in because that is a pretty tight turn. Absolutely.
Okay, all right. So the overhead doors kind of concealing the gates, they're going to be open fully during business hours?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
They only shut when the store closes.
Security at night?
Yep.
Yep, thank you.
Other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Jeremy, you take us through the planner's report, please?
Yes, Chair, Commissioners. The applicant actually hit all my points. I wanted to describe the variances, the waivers. It is an 1,800 or almost 1,900 square foot addition, relatively minor compared to the scale of the project or the site. It's a three-sided structure. The back end is basically open. You're going to drive under the canopy, and that's where the clerk would do the inspection to make sure, from a security perspective, they'd be protected there. The four waivers requested, and the base area ratio is a relatively minor increase. The maximum is 0.2%, and they're increasing it to 0.27. The floor area ratio is proposed at 0.437, up from the 0.4 maximum. We see these as likely not to negatively impact the tone or the posture of the project. Again, as the applicant noted, this addition is really on the north kind of corner of the building. It's not likely to be very visible from neighboring streets or even neighboring properties, with the exception of the immediate neighbor to the north there. The side yard setback is reduced from 20 feet to 11 feet 8 inches. Again, that no build easement that the applicant negotiated with the neighbor will preserve kind of open space between that area. The sign area we see as a modest deviation from the strict reading of the requirement. The signage is not intended to draw people off the street. It's intended to provide some information in terms of navigation on site, and we see that as a beneficial opportunity for the users of the property. And I know historically we, from an exterior building standpoint, building material standpoint, we try to hold pretty firm to the 75-25 requirement. Should note that 3 of the 4 sides, the property exceeds the minimum 75% requirement. Only on the rear portion, and because this addition doesn't have a rear wall but does have some kind of ephes to kind of help blend in that improvement, does the 75 or the class 1 material drop below the 75%. So given that the other sides exceed the requirement, and this site or that facade is really a private view, usually only the people that are in the yard area will likely see it. Staff can support a waiver in that situation. Staff is recommending approval of the 3 actions that are outlined in the staff report, and I'd stand for any questions.
Great. Thank you. Any questions for the city? All right. This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to come forward and speak about this project, please do so now. Okay. All right. I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing and have further discussion if necessary.
Move.
All right. Do I have a second to close public hearing?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing is closed. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes. Commissioner Farr.
I'm unsure of the relevance of this, but about 1.5 years ago, we looked at another application for the Chick-fil-A, if you recall, and they were asking for a waiver, which was denied for a very similar request to put a canopy protecting their drive-through traffic and their employees, just like this same function, only it was in a front yard setback against Flying Cloud Drive. And I think it was obvious to the commission at that time and staff that wasn't a good idea, and that got denied. And just as a matter of precedence, I think maybe just to offer a finding saying that this particular, while it may be similar, I think the hidden nature of it visually from the public way, and it's a side yard instead of a front yard, makes this much more palatable to me. But I just saw a lot of similarities there, and I thought it was worth mentioning.
I think that's a great call out. Would anyone like to make a motion?
Just in general, from my standpoint, given Commissioner Farr's comment, I think is a valid one to acknowledge, as you just did. Otherwise, I think it's a nice improvement to a good, what do I say, good community member in Menards. And I think the waivers are reasonable, as staff has said, so I'm in support of this.
Thanks, Commissioner Kirk. Any other comments, or would someone like to make a motion, or?
I'll make a motion. Mr. Chair, I'm going to move to recommend approval for a planned unit concept review, a planned unit development district with waivers. Did I say that right? Planned unit development district with waivers, yes, and a site plan, all on 15.72 acres as represented in the July 10th, 2023 staff report, based on plans as listed in the July 10th, 2023 staff report.
All right, motion, I have a motion from Commissioner Farr. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Grote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Would anyone like to abstain? All right, congratulations, moving forward, thank you. Nice presentation as well. All right, up next, we have a comprehensive plan amendment land use, request for amending the comprehensive plan relating to the guided land use of 18 parcels. Jeremy, will you be speaking on behalf of this one?
Yes, sir. Just 1 second. Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. As you noted, there are, this request is from the city. There are 18 parcels that we've identified in our land use map that we believe are guided incorrectly based on mapping errors or what have you through the development of our comp plan in 2018. Periodically, we do review the code or the comprehensive plan, both the maps and text, to make sure that there's no errors or inaccurate information, and also to ensure that the policies outlined in the comprehensive plan correctly reflect the goals of the city. In this review, we've identified 18 parcels that we believe were guided in error. We want to correct that. Of the 18 parcels, 10 of them are guided for parks, open space, and really should be guided for low-density residential. And they're scattered throughout the city, and I can zoom in on any of those. I can't really zoom in, but I can show or discuss any of those. But primarily, we believe that when the map was created in 2018, through the kind of the development of that map through a third party, kind of features that were contained or identified as parks and open space, creeks, steep slopes, treed areas, kind of continued beyond property lines owned or maintained by the city and kind of incorporated some privately owned property. And we want to correct that because while it's inaccurate kind of guiding for these private properties, it may raise conflicts with those private property owners if they look to refinance the property, because occasionally bank or lenders will ask, is it compliant with the comprehensive plan? Or if they wanted to do another type of land use application, one of the first questions is it compliant with the comprehensive plan? So in those areas where these 10 parcels where the property is currently guided for parks, open space, but is used for a single-family home and held by a private property owner, we're proposing to correct that to make that a low-density residential. This isn't a change in land use policy for these areas. It's really a correction of the map for these parcels. There's one situation where the property is guided low-density residential and we want to change it to parks and open space. In that situation, it was a subject of a subdivision, I believe, a couple years ago, and the city acquired an outlot for the purpose of preserving the area for parks and open space. So we want to correct that situation. That's on Eden Prairie Road. There are 4 parcels just south of Highway 5 on Terry Pine Court that are used as offices. We have guided them in the comp plan to industrial flex tech, which we think is just a coloring error when we did the map. So we look to correct that to re-guide it to office, again, to be consistent with how the property is used. And so we're not adjusting any land use policy here. We're just trying to correct the map. There are 2 parcels that we've guided for mixed use away from the mall. You may recall earlier this year we did a zoning ordinance amendment where we created a new zoning district called mixed use. And during that discussion, we recognized that there are 2 parcels that on Martin Drive that are guided mixed use, but probably aren't as appropriate for that type of use as we originally thought. Namely, high-density residential is the main difference between the mixed use and the flex service. One of those parcels is owned by MnDOT, and they're currently trying to market that property. The other parcel is the Lund's Bakery. It's used as it's essentially an industrial type use. So what we're proposing to do is re-guide that to flex service to be consistent with the rest of those parcels in that area. And the inset on my map here, that purplish color is the flex service, and that's what we're looking to change the mixed use to that purplish color. There's another parcel on the east side of town that is guided for medium density residential, and we propose to change that to low density residential, which is a reduction in density. Based on a little bit of the history of that parcel, the property owner, a couple property owners ago, had a couple options in terms of development. High density residential went on a different parcel, and this one was intended to retain as low density residential. This is the parcel that we've received a written comment, and it's included in your packet. And there's no objection to reduction of density from medium density residential to low density residential there. Again, a correction of what it was intended to be from a land use perspective. That is kind of those parcels quickly. I'd be happy to kind of go through any of them in more detail if you like, but we really don't see this as a change in land use policy, but more of a correction of the map that we use daily in terms of our land use decision making. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time, but staff is recommending approval as drafted in your staff report.
Thank you. Commissioner Kirk.
Jeremy, I've just got a confirmation on those first, what was it, first 8 or 10 properties that you talked about, the parks and open space to low density residential. All are, just to confirm, I gotta say this right. Each of those properties right now, the actual use of it is low density residential?
Yes, I believe there might be one or two that are vacant,
Okay.
but again, privately held. And they could be used for low density residential. But if there's 10 parcels, I want to say 8 or 9 of them are developed and improved with a single family home.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fart.
Mr. Chair, so if you could, I didn't see you zone on number 7, which is just right down the block here on the north side of Scenicite Road.
Yep.
Is that it? It looks like it's mostly ponding, and I couldn't quite figure out if there's a public street heading north as a little cul-de-sac servicing some existing homes there to the east of the subject parcel, and if there's a home back there, and then that home just owns all those ponds, or if there's a stormwater easement for the benefit of other properties around it. That's why there's ponding, and so if the low density residential is going to be impossible to achieve because there's already stormwater easements from others. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, that's a very good question. A lot of what we found when we did the review of the parks, of the subject parcels, is a big chunk of the property in many cases was floodplain, shoreland areas, steep slopes, sensitive natural areas that we're going to end up preserving when the property is developed. But in most of these situations, there's a single family home on the property. And our practice is not to take a parcel and break it apart in terms of different land use guidance. So for example, the Scenic Heights one that you mentioned, there's a home on the extreme east side of the property.
Okay,
Right here.
I see.
The rest of it, yeah, you're correct, is a sensitive natural environment thing that we're going to want to correct or retain or protect when that property is developed, if it is developed or further developed. But again, we don't want to break that up and have the eastern 300 feet be low density residential and the western balance be parks and open space. We don't want to break that apart. That's problematic long term in terms of how we administer that.
Okay, all right. Fine, thank you.
Other questions for the city? Okay. This is a public hearing. If anyone would like to come forward and speak for or against this proposal, please do so now. Okay. I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All right, I have a motion to close. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor of closing public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing's closed. Discussion.
I think I applaud the staff's endeavor to retain accuracy on our guide plan map, so I'm glad these discoveries happened or were brought before us, and looks like we'll have a cleaner map, so that's great.
I concur with Commissioner Farr. I think it's just further clarification and kind of fine tuning.
Thanks for calling out, Commissioner Kirk, that we're not losing any park space here. We're just cleaning up, so. All right. If there's no other comments, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. Move to recommend approval of the amendment to the comprehensive plan relating to land use of 18 parcels as represented in the July 10th, 2023 staff report.
All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Kirk. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Second from Commissioner Grote. Do all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Would anyone like to abstain? All right. Thank you for that, Jeremy. Moving on this evening, do we have any planners' reports?
No, sir.
Any members' reports? All right, seeing none, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, we're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.